Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you are all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and gentlemen's agreements causing more drama on the timeline last night. Neptune, player for the Florida Mutineers, a number of pros going in his chat, accusing him of using auto sprint, this setting which is GA'd from the game right now. The pros decided it makes movement too easy to use. Effectively, instead of having to press down your left analog stick to sprint, you can just move it forward, which creates a, well, easier movement, as we saw first in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. They were accusing Neptune of using it. He then came on to prove that he actually was not using it. Pretty entertaining stuff. How do we even get around these issues going forwards? Intrigued to hear your perspective on all this in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, great news from FaZe over at YouTube Gaming, saying that Clips is launching as a new product. Of course, FaZe, formerly an OpTic, formerly a caster for a long time over the Call of Duty Esports scene when it was first developing, and they're bringing in Clips for a limited number of channels for now, effectively just like it worked on Twitch. YouTube for some reason has been very behind the times on this, but that's going to be a significant step up in the viewing experience, and possibly for the ability of, like, you know, regular people to just clip stuff, put it up on Twitter, give Call of Duty Esports the traction that maybe you could argue it does deserve. And of course, FaZe, well, long time in Call of Duty Esports, I imagine if one of the limited channels isn't, well, the Call of Duty League YouTube channel, I would be very surprised indeed. I'm sure it will be for hopefully the upcoming weekends of matches starting February the 11th, as we're going to talk about a little bit more detail later today, as FaZe says, with all the craziness right now in the stock market. YouTube Gaming to the moon, ladies and gentlemen. So let's hop into things then. Parasite says yesterday, and so the journey begins. We talked yesterday about how, okay, he's joining the London Royal Ravens on their squad. Does definitely seem like that is the case. He says, okay, the journey begins. Then he's hopping off a plane somewhere, straight off a plane, straight into scrims up against the Florida Mutineers. And then I think he went into scrims against the Dallas Empire, which isn't pretty. Florida, Dallas, two of the best teams in the game right now, it does seem. So fair play to Parasite, just hopping in straight into a scrim against Florida Mutineers. I think it went 6-1 in favor of Florida the first one, because the Florida guys were streaming it. The Dallas guys don't tend to stream their scrims. I think Clayster was actually streaming some New York scrims yesterday as well. So definitely some, well, scrims being streamed as of late, which is pretty cool to see. But Parasite playing, of course, with the London Royal Ravens, not necessarily to the best effect, but Neptune and Skies were streaming this scrim. You'd imagine they do continue to improve over time, that being the Royal Ravens squad now with Parasite into that lineup. But okay, so Neptune was streaming these scrims. Just before we get into those results, all I mentioned this, a few of you guys were mentioning to me the OpTic Gaming scrim results for a couple of days ago. Thought this was pretty interesting to see, actually. They played up against the Minnesota Rokkr. They kind of split the hard points 3-2, then they won all of the controls. Then they played up against the Paris Legion. Actually, well, Paris looks very, very good in this scrim set. Of course, it's pretty much unclear who is hosting each particular scrim, but okay, Paris actually won the hard points 4-1, won the controls 2-1. So yeah, fair play. Maybe Paris Legion could be another underdog team. I think I've talked a lot the last few days about potential underdog dark horse teams for the season. I mean, Toronto Ultra have got to look at. Florida Mutineers, you could also argue, could be a good one, at least for potentially winning events, right? And then we've got Paris Legion, like, they seem to have a fair bit of upset potential right now, and who knows what this win over OpTic really means. It's only scrims at the end of the day, but thought it was interesting to mention regardless. So of course, speaking of scrims, Neptune a few days ago, when it was, well, discovered on the 15th of January that he was going to be in this Florida Mutineers squad, teaming alongside Awakening, Slacked, and Skies as it is right now. And well, one of these clips that came out in map number 1, so well, this is the first map of their scrim set, absolutely flying around the corner, completely destroying Formal, right? A lot of people looking at this guy and saying, wow, his guy's movement is out of control, right? He's a Halo kid just like Shotzzy, and this guy just cannot be touched in terms of movement. But some pros may be looking at Neptune and saying, okay, this guy is a little bit suspicious. Is he using auto sprint? His movement is just too good to be true. He's flying around corners like there's no tomorrow. Is there something dodgy going on here? Because they decided to get rid of auto sprint for the game, effectively because it, well, in their opinion, it reduces the skill gap, right? Because, okay, anyone can fly around the corner, just hold down the left thumbstick, makes it much easier to slide cancel, makes it much easier to fly around corners. You don't have to press down that left thumbstick, and it was exactly the same thing in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and we'll have a look at what Crimsix, well, what happened with Crimsix in that game here in just a second. But in that game, it was decided, okay, auto tactical sprint, where you could actually double sprint, that was going to be GA'd. It was just too good to be true. And auto single sprint as well was also GA'd, which is just the same thing, but, you know, single sprinting, and then you had to press it once more to actually double tactical sprint, whereas by default in that game, you had to press it twice to double sprint and all that good stuff. So this is what kicked off yesterday then. In Neptune's chat right here, Neptune, as you can see, went off live. Pretty interesting. We'll talk about that in a second. Crimsix, show sprint settings, saying, look, show what your auto sprint settings are, show that it is off because it's GA'd, right? You're not allowed to use it. And well, unfortunately, what do you even do to control this stuff, right? When there's a GA like that, how are you even meant to determine who's using it, who's not using it? How do you, well, officiate that in an official match? Someone could just, well, slap it on for a grand finals and nobody is going to be any the wiser. So Crimsix says the following. Then we get Skies even comes in, so his stream goes down, and Sky says, look, his internet just cuts out, right? It's, well, it's certainly an inopportune time. Temp says guilty. Certainly an inopportune time for your stream to cut out, right? As soon as Crimsix comes in your chat asking you to show your sprint settings, then your internet just mysteriously cuts out. Yeah, maybe this was just a coincidence. I think a lot of people are saying it was, but as Temp says guilty, I think ILLey says guilty as well, so saying, okay, he actually is using this auto sprint, and JCap comes in as well to say, why is he not showing settings? I am new here. However, it does seem like after his stream did come back up, he did show his settings for all the other matches they played. He brought up after the matches or whatever to show that, okay, he actually was not using auto sprint, and his movement is just that good. But that does kind of raise the question, right? You've got pros accusing Neptune of using auto sprints where they're, you know, not using it, and it's auto single sprint was GA'd last year as well. Pretty entertaining, of course, that Crimsix was doing this. It seems somewhat rich from Crimsix, given that last season he was actually the one using auto tac sprint on the down low. I think, well, Scump was talking about it right here in this clip that we looked at the time, effectively saying, okay, someone's using it, it's basically Crim that's using it, and he actually explained on the Reddit at the time that he was using this for 2 days, and everyone lost their minds, basically just because, well, no one could find out who's actually using it. So pretty funny that Crim at the time was saying, okay, like, you know, I was just using this to show that no one can find out who's using it, and then a few months later, when Neptune's potentially using it, then he's in the chat, you know, asking it for receipts. But, you know, at the end of the day, the CDL probably need to have a think about exactly how you enforce this in an official matchup, right? Let's say we go into an official game, how are you going to prove that everyone on the team is using the same sprint settings? There's no incentive for someone not to just turn an auto single sprint if it is going to improve their, well, their gameplay potentially. And well, who really knows? It's a tough one. I imagine in an ideal world, there's a setting which, okay, when you put on the CDL rules in the game, let's say we've got preset classes coming very soon, as it seems that we do have. Let's say when you put on CDL rules, all your classes you have, okay, they're custom classes, they're preset classes that the pros are using, but also it automatically sets your settings so that you have auto single sprint, well, auto sprint in this game off. In last game it was auto single sprint because there was the tactical sprint as well, so you had to differentiate between the two, if I didn't make that clear already. But yeah, do you think Neptune's using this? Obviously there's been a lot of nasty clips that came out these last few days. I mean, this one I put up, I mean, against Envoy, and I think it was actually Dashy getting world started in this clip right here. Neptune just hops up, slides around the corner, and then, well, does something which is very impressive movement-wise. Certainly this is something that could very well be done without auto sprint, right? So it's not necessarily saying that he has it, but it does seem a lot of maybe pros were looking at some of Neptune's gameplay and saying this guy is just too good to be true, something must be going on. But then he went on to prove that actually was not the case and was still frying in the scrims when he actually proved that auto sprint was disabled. So I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What should they do about this? Is this just another issue of gentlemen's agreements going too far to the point where now we get accusations of cheating effectively coming out? So it's kind of unfortunate given that this, I suppose, is a cheating accusation, you could argue, even though at the same time there's many more egregious cheats available in the game. You've got to talk about something like, you know, the strike pack, for example, the anti-recoil mods that might have. You've got to talk about like the Cronus Zen we discussed, potential stronger aim assist, and this type of things we've discussed these last couple of seasons, which unfortunately is just the situation in this online league, right? If we were at a LAN event, I'm sure the referees could probably go and check if these guys weren't using it, but even then, like, how do you really enforce if someone just goes into their settings to change the brightness or something and accidentally switches on auto sprint at the same time for their professional match? It's pretty tough to even deal with on a referee's perspective if you're at a LAN environment, let alone in this online arena that we find ourselves in right now. So realistically, there needs to be an in-game way to stop this from happening, and well, the CDL rule set, in my opinion, should have some sort of overhaul to the point where we can actually use streaks. I think that was a question a few days ago as well, the fact that, okay, we can't even use streaks right now because you're not allowed to set them to the level that you want to set them. I think they use the cruise missile at 1600 and the artillery at 2000, but I'm not even sure you could do that properly in the CDL rule setters yet, so definitely need some changes there to try and deal with some of the issues that have arisen these last couple of months. Intrigued to hear your perspective in the comment section below. Talking, I suppose, of nasty movement from HaLo kids, wanted to finish off with this clip from Shotzzy, the finesse, and well, of course, a lot of people are looking at Neptune and saying he is just a young Shotzzy, even though they're pretty much the same age. Shotzzy's also still very young, but Neptune, I suppose, 1 year behind in his Call of Duty career. Going to be exciting to see what develops here going forwards. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm to know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.
Yeah, one's A Street. Street 2, done.
Nice, there's one behind him, guys. Hold on, I can get a pinch.
Joe top lane, absolute.
Fine, fine. Did you go, Arcitys?
Yeah, I think we're
let's push our exit.
Top A wing,
Yeah,
top A.
Going back to the middle wing.
Tyler's in the middle plane.
It should be spawning blue.
Yeah, show me fine. Fine. Let me play him.
Kyler absolute in the plane.
They gotta kill me. They're spawning blue, guys.
TK'd him. Holy.
Yeah, I
Let me
spawned.
plane.
Spawning blue. They should be spawning blue.
Trying to go to time.
I'll get time.
Storm weak back blue.
Right side. Joe deep right dead.
Have your A-wing side.
Oh,
he's got
no,
pistol
no,
right,
no,
right, right.
Dead.
Ooh.
I'm
How many
here.
under?
I killed that guy ASD.
One
Don't tell
team.
him.
Deep right.
Team at ASD.
These are points
I'm
up.
gonna hit out ASD.
Top left wing.
Okay.
Kid's dead.
One's are points up.
Shot.
Yeah, boy,
dog,
deep right,
wow.
Tetris, deep right.